Thanks so much for that, Dustin. And thank you for welcoming Vernon and I to this really important conference. We're really honored to be part of it. I'd like to especially extend my thanks to Belinda Daniels for this invitation, for honoring the work that we do on parent knowledge. Really humbled to be invited to be here and really honored as well. Thank you so very much again for this opportunity to talk with you today for just a few minutes about parent knowledge. We believe that it's something really important to be looked at in schools and on school landscapes, whether it's reserve or urban. We think this is a piece that's missing, and so it's really a privilege to talk with you about that today. Let's begin with you, Vernon. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vernon Linklater. I am talking to you from Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis in Saskatoon. I am from the Caribou clan, Atik, and I am Anishinaabe and Nehio. Other than that, I've been all over the world. I learned I was a day school survivor, and I'm just learning to be a good person.
Thanks so much, Vernon. It's been really a privilege for me to know Vernon and to know his family. I moved to Saskatchewan probably 17 years ago, and one of the first people that I came to know was Vernon. And he's been a teacher, a mentor, a friend for me since that time. I've been able to learn in ceremony with him and alongside his family. I've been able to sit for many years at the kitchen table and gain that knowledge as well. And I'm just really honored and thankful for this opportunity to work in relationship with Vernon. I'm a mother as well as a researcher at the university, as well as a teacher educator. Because of being a mother is why I do this work. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I also have a long history in education. I was 20 years as a teacher, a consultant, a principal working in senior admin. So multiply positioned as we share our work today. In my early work, I've spoken a lot about the notion of a protectorate, and I think you are all in this audience so familiar with our colonial history, and out of that colonial history came schools that worked as protectorates. They claimed the ground, they built the curriculum, the rules, the policies, the procedures, and then they shared those with families and with children. They said, this is the way it's going to be, and they asked all of us to bring our children and to follow those rules. And in that protectorate structure, it was teacher knowledge that was held in high esteem, that was privileged, their expert knowing, their understanding of children, of teaching and learning. And for me, what happened, I had been a teacher probably 12 years before I had children of my own, and another 5 before my oldest son, Cohen, was old enough to go to school. And even though I had all of this experience with school, it was being a mom on a school landscape, taking my own child into that school building, that really awakened me to how marginalized, how removed parents are from their children's teaching and learning. And it was that experience of marginalization that caused me to go back to university to do my doctorate, to study parent engagement and parent knowledge, and to really think about how do we center the place, the voice, the knowledge, the experiences of parents as educators of their kids in the learning that happens within schools. And so that's really how this work evolved. So when I began my doctoral work, I began talking in that early work about parent knowledge. And I used that term a fair amount. And my doctoral supervisor challenged me and she said, Debbie, what is parent knowledge? You're talking about it, but what is it? And you know, when I searched it, when I Google search for the term teacher knowledge, I get thousands of hits, hundreds of thousands even. But at that time, when I searched for the term parent knowledge, it was almost non-existent. And the things that came up were more about parenting or teaching parents to be better parents or parent advocacy. But they weren't about honoring that knowledge that parents hold because they live and nurture children, live with and nurture. And so I decided if we were going to legitimize this idea, this term, we needed to study it. And so I did a study. It was funded by SSHRC on parent knowledge, asking two simple questions. What is parent knowledge? How is it held and used by parents? And so in that study, Vernon, I call him Red in my work. He's supposed to be anonymous. Well, no more anonymity, Vernon. Vernon was one of the parents that I had the privilege of sitting with, of learning from. And as I said to you earlier, we spend lots of hours talking at his kitchen table over a cup of coffee and his sharing of experiences and my experiences with their family. And so what we're doing today is talking to you about parent knowledge generally, but more specifically about Indigenous parent knowledge and why it matters and what difference it could make. So we have a little video coming up. It's Vernon's sister, Teedley, Teresa, and she's singing a lullaby that her mom, Vernon's mom too, sang when they were little. I've put some pictures to it. So as you watch, please be asking yourself that question. What is parent knowledge? Here we go.
Bonjour. This is a lullaby song that Nagawi had sang for us while we were growing up and we were babies. And she also sang it to the grandchildren and now to the great-grandchildren. And it's just a little lullaby that she made up. And it goes like this. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Gani paso baby says. Gani paso baby says. Me, 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 me.
Just take a minute and think then, what did you see in those images? How did you see parent knowledge expressed, gathered, garnered, lived out? So many ways that we're engaged with our children, so many ways we learn with and from them, so many ways we use our knowledge as we guide them and nurture them as they grow from birth to forever. And so the way that we've just defined parent knowledge is it's that very particular knowledge that's developed through that complex act of caring for children, nurturing them over time within our homes, our communities, our culture, all those activities. Those are complex circumstances. And so how do we come to know children? How do we come to know teaching and learning through all of those pieces? That's what our parent knowledge is. And I want to mention, and Vernon and I have talked about this a lot, when we use the term parent, we know that's a role, right? It's an act that happens in a family and it's held by many people, cookums and mushrooms, aunties and uncles, partners of your life partner maybe, older siblings, lots and lots of people do this job. So when you think parent in all the ways that you know who a parent is. And what we've learned is that parent knowledge shows itself in lots of ways. It's relational. The only reason we have parent knowledge is when we become in relationship with this baby, this child, this individual in our lives. And our knowledge arises out of that relationship. My knowledge from one of my sons might be different from the knowledge I gain from another, but it's the intensity of relationship that causes this parent knowledge to develop. It's bodied knowledge. We carry our children, we hug them, we hold them, we caress them, we bathe them, we sit beside them in ceremony. You think of Vernon as Angry Bear. He wrestles, he tussles, he boxes, he plays. All of those ways give us a knowledge of our children that's different than anyone else. That body-to-body interaction gives us knowledge that others don't have. Certainly teachers don't interact with our kids in that way. Our knowledge is embodied as well. We know in our heads, we know in our hearts, we know in our guts sometimes, all of those ways of knowing. And so sometimes we'll see our child, a look across their face, and we get this gut feeling in our stomach that something's not okay. Sometimes we hold our knowledge in places other than our head, and that's important parent knowledge too. That knowledge can be intuitive, almost metaphysical. Maybe it's a relationship with the ancestors or the dream world. We all may understand that differently, but sometimes we just know something in relation to our children. We can't even tell you why, but we do. Our bodies, our minds, our beings tell us something about that child. That moment when you think, gee, something's wrong or something's happened or my child needs me. Those kinds of things that come from that other place in the world. And our knowledge is uncertain. It doesn't stay constant. As our kids change, our knowledge grows, it shifts, it changes. I remember this day that Vernon and I were talking at his kitchen table, and he said, you know, Deb, I've got 5 kids. I know how to raise children. I've done a lot of it. I've learned how, but gosh, now I've got this teenager in my house, and I'm not so sure I know how to be a parent anymore. That knowledge shifts, it changes. And so we enter new stages. We had knowledge, now it's not there anymore as our kids become someone else and enter another place in time. So all of those attributes, all of those features add to that knowledge that we have. So we carry all this knowing, and it sits on the edges of our school landscapes. It doesn't often make its way to teachers or into classrooms or places where it could be really used and acted upon. So how might we think about sharing what we know about our kids with our teachers or in these other spaces? And one of the things that I became really awake to as this study unfolded over 2 or 3 years was that every one of the participants in this story had kind of, and I didn't even know what to call it, for now at least I'm calling it a unifying family story. This idea that they had this one big broad umbrella idea that guided who they were as parents, how they parented, how they interacted with their kids. And as you'll see on the screen, I've noted that it expresses their vision for their family. It expresses their hopes and dreams for their children, for themselves, for their family. It makes visible what they value, what they believe in, their sense of who they are, of what they do, of why they do what they do. And that kind of family story, all filled with our parent knowledge, I think is something we need to begin to imagine. How do we bring this into schools, classrooms, curriculum, teaching, learning? So when we think about Vernon's story specifically, one of the things I heard Vernon say a lot during the time that we were spending together is we follow the red road. And we did a lot of talking. What does that mean? What does that look like? So what do you do because of that? And so I'm going to turn it over to Vernon now, and I'm going to ask him to share what this unifying family story means to him, the ways he's parented, the knowledge he's gained over the years, different kids, different times. So thank you, Vernon. Please go ahead.
All I could say is, I know as a parent now, I had to take some courses, and these courses were from my mother and father, my aunts and uncles, asking them, how do you raise kids? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then when I got enough knowledge, I shared that and we talked about it. And when we took them to school, we actually, when we went to school there, it seemed that it almost seemed like they had to take their skin off, leave their skin at home, and go in there as a someone else. Over a period of time, they come home and they sometimes forget their skin at school. So I tell them, "Come on, boys, we have to smudge, we have to go and sweat." And over a period of time, one of the teachers was very, she was very guiding in a sense, like saying, "Hey, Vernon, do you want to help out at school?" And I'd say, "No, I'm busy. I got to play bingo. I got to do this. I got to do that." But she hounded me. I don't say hounded, but she pressured me. I don't want to say pressured. She continually asked me over and over, "Can you come and help out at the school? Can you come out and help at the school?" And over a period of time, probably even a year, I finally agreed. And when I took my own eyes into the school, I didn't have to take my skin off. And then when the children seen that, I say, "Hey, Dad, you're my dad, and you're in school." They didn't really change much, but I know all parents, when their baby is young and they start to cry, if they're hungry, if they're wet, if they're hurt, if they're whiny, you just know that. And that's a history of you learning about parent knowledge about your own children. Well, we bring that to our school. We don't have to, we don't have to hide it from us, from everyone. And when they say, "Hey, Vernon, what do you do when your child does this, when your child does that?" And we consult, like we don't say this is the way, the only way. I know, again, for ceremony is as straight road as you can, just foremost, you have to follow through. But then when you offer the children, they're saying the children are gifts from the Creator. Treat them well. So for every rule for ceremony, there's always 2 or 3 exemptions. And all our children, they get these exemptions all the time. But without them learning, I really think that we as Indigenous people, we don't have to be shy of who we are. I know when I walk in anywhere now, I carry the history of negative influences on my life. I've dealt with abuses, sexual, alcohol, residential school, 60 scoop through my parents, grandparents, day school for myself, my brother, everything, like the churches, the police, carding, everything. It's so awful, but at the same time, I chose not to get angry. With that, I just continued on, forgive and forget. And my children looked at that, and I didn't have to use violence. Although, I'm a man. Well, at one time I was a big guy. I could settle everything with a few punches, but I had to go past that. I had to tell my kids, teach my kids. We have to have a way to discuss, a way to exercise what we're thinking, and provide that information to the people. So again, I don't know if I'm speaking too fast or whatever, but the red road, I guess, we follow. It's daily. It's smudging. Like it's ceremony, it's praying, it's drumming, dancing. It's singing lullabies at home, sitting quietly in our living room without even saying one word for 15, 20 minutes at a time. That's not a big deal for us. It's we're just there, and we look at eye contact. And then when it's time to go, we hug. We handshake. But again, with COVID, it's very difficult. It was reminding me that we've been in a year in COVID, and I bet you now you kind of know how Indigenous people were feeling for decades, for generations. On you can't go there, got to wear masks, you can't hug, you can't do this. Where you're going, you have to prove everything. And in a sense, it's when the majority feels like a minority, things get done. So with that, I guess I have more to say, but I'll stick to my timeline. So thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Vernon. So right now, when we look at, Vernon and I live, as we said, on Treaty 6 territory in Saskatoon and the homeland of the Métis. When we look at our home province of Saskatchewan, our Indigenous kids aren't doing well. And I'm sure in your provinces across our country, you could tell similar stories, right? Graduation rates of less than 50%. Something has to change. And school divisions continue to try. They continue to have initiatives to set priorities, to put money into endeavors, but they often fall back on the same things they've always done: more literacy, more numeracy. They look at attendance. They look at things like that. Vernon and I feel strongly where they have to look is to parent knowledge. That if instead of that protectorate structure where just teacher knowledge was privileged, if we held teacher knowledge and put beside it parent knowledge and had that much more knowledge, knowing, understanding, identity, culture to educate our kids, how much richer the learning would be, the teaching and learning environment, and we believe how much stronger the outcomes would be as well. It is wonderful to see elders in classrooms, and that's a beginning. And then how do we enhance that? How do we make it bigger? All parents feeling welcome, all parents feeling knowledgeable, all parents feeling that they can contribute. Those are the pieces that we think could break us through. In Saskatchewan, our results have been stagnant for the last decade. No change, nothing's different. And yet we believe this is a piece that could shift thinking about Indigenous kids from deficit to asset-based, to see all the things that they know and can do when they come into the classrooms, all the gifts they offer and all the gifts their parents offer. So that's really where we think, looking forward, moving forward into the future, where we believe there is hope and possibility. And we believe it resides in every single parent. It's an available resource. It's a free resource. It's everywhere. So we're really hoping to see that become integral in all schools. In this book, Living as Map Makers, I've written a whole chapter about parent knowledge. We have a whole chapter about Red, about Vernon and his wife and their children, and what Indigenous knowledge looks like. 20 minutes isn't very much, so if you want more information, please feel invited to have a look at that book. And I've also put my own information here for you as well. No, it's not moving right now. There we go. That's my email address, my phone number. I have a website on parent engagement and parent knowledge. I have a Facebook page, and I have a Twitter account. So again, easily available, lots of things I'd love to share and talk about if we had that time.